Yeah, hi, and welcome to Keeping It Together. And this is episode 2, in case you missed it. So today we have Adele Stickland, we have Stella James, and we have Patricia Barman, who will be sharing their various thoughts with us, dealing with how we can keep it together physically, mentally, and financially. So we'll get going straight away with Adele, if you don't mind, and you will talk to us a bit about how we can keep it together.
Hi Linda, hi Patricia, hi Stella, lovely to be here. Thank you for inviting me along. I am a wellbeing expert. Managing stress and physical activity is one of the best things that we can do to control what's going on in our little inner circle. We were just talking at the beginning about the perceived threat that the coronavirus has given us, and it's that unseen threat that is so difficult to manage. Now, whether you're worried about your own health or somebody else's health, it still leads to that background, that subconscious background of fear, and how you deal with that fear is fine, is absolutely fine. I think that's the first thing to recognize, that everybody's going to have different coping mechanisms. Now, the amygdala is that little tiny part of the brain that has an effect on our reaction to fear, and we will do one of several things, but the main things are fight. We will fight our way through it. We will argue with the government. We will do this, we will do that. We will, do our best to try and resolve the situation, or we will just go into fright, which means that we feel shocked. We can't do anything, almost ignoring what's going on. And then the last one is flight. We'll run away. We'll hide underneath the blanket. All of these are perfectly normal, and it's getting that out there and recognizing that that's normal that is the biggest way forward, because we've got to process it. So talking to somebody, that could be your family at home or on the Zoom calls, that's fantastic, but also getting perspective on what you're going through is really important. So you've asked me today to talk about physical fitness and physical well-being, and that is one of the tools that you can use to help your mental health. As well as talking to somebody, that will help your mental health, but getting outside, listening to your body and making sure that you're doing your 10,000 steps. That is your priority. So if you can't do 10,000 steps, I understand that, but making sure that you're getting outside is going to help to process what is going on in your life at the moment. Even if you can't see it, your body is going through this shock, grief situation where the whole world is in this together. We're all going through the same thing, but we're going to handle it in different ways. So if you can go outside, that's going to help to calm your heart rate. It's going to help reduce your blood pressure, and it's going to help the chemicals that are in your body because of this shock to calm down. Cortisol, adrenaline is released, and in this situation, and the more things that you can do to help calm and soften your heart rate, the better, and release those chemicals. So forest bathing is something the Japanese love. They talk about that all the time, and it's getting outside, being amongst the trees, paying attention to a blade of grass, a flower. My daughter's going crazy looking at all the wonderful flowers that are out there at the moment, because we haven't got so many people trampling on the grass or the flowers. Abundance of bluebells and different varieties of flowers are out there. So being mindful when you're outside is fantastic. Letting those outside vibes and the chemicals from the trees is going to help significantly, and making sure that you've done that every day is perfect. Also making sure, so exercise has 3 different elements. It has that cardiovascular element, which walking, running, stroke running is going to really help you with. It's a heart and lung activity, and that's going to keep your heart and lungs really fit and healthy, which we're going to need to keep this virus at bay. So that's cardiovascular health. You also have muscular strength. That is so important, especially for women. And I know that when we've spoken in the past, you can get that muscle work through your legs when you walk, running, but your upper body for women, it's really important that you keep that bone density and that muscle density in place. So weight bearing exercise for your upper body is essential. So you can use hand weights, you can use a band for resistance training, but getting some upper body workout into your body is really, really important. Not only for your muscles, but also for your bones. My background and my family backgrounds on my paternal and my maternal side is osteoporosis. I'm a classic osteoporosis candidate because I am small framed. So I don't have as much bone to try and keep that bone density. So when I lose it, I lose quite a lot. So posture is incredibly important for keeping your bone density strong. And what I mean by that is, if you're not using the bone, if you're looking to come forward, if you're hunching forward, your body will think, okay, I'm going to be really efficient here. I don't need to be using this part of my body, i.e. this part of my bone. Therefore, I will go and use this energy in creating something else. I'll look after the body in another way. I'll digest more, or I'll fight off a bug more, but you will lose bone density. So you need to sit upright, you need to pull your shoulder blades back, you need upright posture to keep the muscle strength, to keep the bone strength. Do some upper body weight training. And then the third aspect of physical well-being is that mind-body discipline. Now, whether you're doing that through Pilates or Tai Chi or yoga, but it is that third element that comes into the exercise, the physical well-being. You need all three elements. And what that third element gives you is, again, helps to calm the nervous system, helps to release calming hormones rather than fright hormones. And it just gives you that time to reflect and look at what's going on for you. It reduces your external influences and starts to bring you in. Now, any mind-body discipline is referred to as the thinking person's exercise, because you can't just do it and not be aware of what you're doing. Pilates in particular, because you're recruiting certain muscle groups, i.e. abdominals, or sometimes it's your biceps, but you're concentrating on one particular area of your body in order to exercise that efficiently and to make sure that you're not doing bad practice. So by doing that, it's a mindful exercise. You're very focused on one part of your body. So I love it. I love Pilates. I've been teaching it for 20 years. I enjoy the atmosphere that it creates. I enjoy the discipline that it creates. And I love that mind-body discipline as well. So I think that, to sum up, those are the three things we need to be doing. Get outside, make sure you're doing some upper body work, especially if you're sat at the desk all day, and make sure that you've got something that's going to help to calm that amygdala, that part of the brain that's in fight or flight. And for me, that would be exercise, breathing, some kind of routine. Pilates would be brilliant.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Adele. So I guess we're open to any questions. Well, one question I do have is what is your special routine? Because you mentioned routine, so can you give us an idea of what?
Well, I normally don't tell anyone, because people think I'm a Fruit Loop if I actually if I tell everybody what I do. But well, since you asked, I will share. I don't want to put anybody off, but I generally, my alarm is still going off at the same time. I'm still getting up at 6, 6:15, and I'm making sure that I'm up and I'm outside if I can every other morning, and I'm doing my 10,000 steps in a run, and that's all done and dealt with by 8 o'clock. I'm practicing my Pilates, because as a Pilates practitioner, I'm teaching Pilates twice a week online on Zoom to my Pilates clients, because all my face-to-face clients have gone. So I'm doing that 2-3 times a week as well. And then I'm generally at my desk working on other businesses, like my coaching clients, I'm doing that through the day. So my working day is still the same. My routine is still the same. My eating has changed. I will be honest. I'm a big advocate of intermittent fasting. So I still delay my breakfast. I'm still got a lot of fats and protein in my diet. I reduce my carbohydrates. If I am eating carbohydrates, I'm eating green carbs rather than starchy carbs. But the thing that has changed dramatically is chocolate. I am eating my own in chocolate. It is my medication at the moment, and I'm very aware of it. I am putting on a few pounds, but I know that my mental well-being is really, really important. So I'm practicing self-care, and if chocolate is making me feel better, then I'm going to go with that. I am not going to beat myself up. I know that I'm doing it to comfort, to help me. I know that it's not great for my insulin levels. It's not great for putting on weight, but I just need that little bit of comfort, that little bit of medicine to help me get through. And to be honest, I'd rather do chocolate than booze. I'd rather do chocolate than anything else that's really going to detriment my health. So,
but is there a healthier choice of chocolate then that you use?
There is. Yeah, there is.
The
If you're going for darker chocolate, then that's much, much better for you. It's not going to give you that glucose, therefore insulin spike. It's going to be easier on your body, on your biology. And also it's got those lovely additives that are going to help. So that's much, much better. But I mean, at the moment, I've been doing trashy, you know, cheap chocolate, and it's unfortunate, but it's my crutch at the moment. And I really want people to be aware that, you know, we all need something to look after ourselves, and we're all going to be doing it. There's all going to be something that we're looking after ourselves with. So I think being open and honest about it and saying that I'm not perfect, I think is going to help. It's just going to let people have their own excuse. I mean, we do just need to look after ourselves as we go through this.
And pressurizing yourself doesn't help. So
mental health is important. So if you have to, you know, do something to just make you feel happy that day, that's, you know, that's a one-off, and then you'll start your routine all over again anyway.
Well, I think I've got everything else in place. You know, I've got the getting outside in place. I've got the exercise in place. I'm processing my emotions efficiently. My husband is enjoying the conversations. He's really interested in everything. In everything that I'm processing at the moment, all the highs and lows of the day. You know, he's open armed and taking on board, but you know, it has to, we have to talk to somebody, and we have to make sure that we're looking after ourselves. So yeah, I haven't got it all right, but we're all doing the best that we can under really difficult circumstances, and this perceived threat is having a chemical reaction on our body, and we need our best resources to process that through. So be easy on yourself. Get outside, do some walking, get outside in the countryside. Best thing you can do at the moment.
I think as well, Adele, is the fact that you're doing it knowing that you're doing it, and you're not beating yourself up about it either. And that's the main thing, is that yes, we all slide off the wagon occasionally, but that's okay, you know. And if you're doing it, then you can monitor it, and you make the best choice of the chocolate that you want, and give them the resources you've got.
Exactly.
That's the thing. It's when you do that, you know, you eat your chocolate, and then you give yourself a really hard time about it, and that's not helpful either. So I'm with you.
Yeah, beautifully articulated. Thank you, Stella.
Anybody else for more questions at all, or are we moving on? I think.
Well, I've got my tights. I've been doing my been out shopping. You know, it was so good to know that.
Good. So what you're doing, Patricia, is you're actually not doing it right. You're straining your neck. No, sorry, sweetie, but I'm a bit of a posture bore. So what Patricia is talking about is shoulder strength and upper back strength, because as we sit in front of the computer, the head of our shoulder tips forward and it loosens off the pecs, the chest muscles and the upper back muscles. So we're trying to put the strength back into the upper back muscles and open up the front of the chest. And we've been doing it with bands. You can get on my Pilates website, adelespilates.co.uk. And I said previously when we talked, if you don't have a band, then you can do it with tights. And what you're doing, what you can see Patricia's doing there is she's got it around her neck, and that's going to hurt her neck. What you need is to bring it across your
All right.
Oh.
band. So I'm glad you did it, because it helps
Me
to
too.
explain. You need it to be across your shoulder blades.
Okay.
So you need to feel it across your shoulder blades, and actually putting the band onto your upper back is absolutely fabulous for the mobility of your shoulder. So what I see in class is people will really struggle to get the band behind them, and they'll do all sorts of cunning tricks. I've seen them all. To try and negotiate getting the band behind them. So they'll push their neck forward, and that is all an indicator that things are really tightening up across the upper back. So it's got to be on your shoulder blade, and if you can do 10 of those out and back without crunching your shoulders, if you can keep your shoulders down, and this is why Pilates is mindful. Know that you're working your upper back, you're feeling that across your shoulder blades. And then the beautiful secret is, if you can keep your head still and lift the band or the tights above your head and look at your shoulders, drop your shoulders down. Yay! And then bring your band to your chest, and then take that 10 times out to the front of your chest. And then what you're doing is you're balancing those antagonistic muscles, chest and upper back. So you need a little bit of resistance in the band, and that is your resistance training, which is the equivalent of weight bearing as well. So you lift it, don't lift your shoulders, go behind and do 10 there. So if you could do that, what should we say, 400 times? Then you...
Over a month? Is that over a month, Adele? Yes.
Okay, I'd be happy with 2. If you can do that twice.
That's good. I've done Pilates for years and never did that. Never did Pilates with a band of any sort. So that's really good information.
I love it. I mean, I don't like to use too much equipment, because I don't want to put people off, and they don't really want to have to set up lots of equipment. But the band is a go-to for me. I love it because it's resistance training, as I've just shown, but also if you've got a bad back, then you can use the band as support. So it's a support mechanism as well as a resistance tool. So it's a really good, and if I've got different people at different stages in my class, I need to be supporting some people and challenging others. So that's why that's a good tool. And the only other piece of equipment I use is weights. I use weights in class as well, because I'm, as I say, a classic osteoporosis candidate. So weight bearing exercise with weight.
People don't have weights at home. Some don't. So what do you?
Tin of beans or something? Yeah.
Tin of baked beans and water bottles with water, or sand, outdoor earth, things like that. I have people that come to class who don't want to carry their weights to class, so they'll come to class with an empty bottle and fill it up when they get to class, and do it that way. But you do generally want to be increasing the load more and more over a period of time. You don't want to stay on that baseline. You want to be slightly increasing it every 2 weeks.
Can I ask you about intermittent fasting? What do you recommend is the best sort of slot?
No chocolate.
What do you do then?
Well, I have to be totally honest with intermittent fasting. Take your time. You can't go into it straight away. And if your body is still working through that glucose pathway, if you're still eating a lot of carbohydrates and then you try and intermittently fast, it will not work. You will be hungry, your body will not be able to process it. Ideally, to intermittently fast, you need to be getting down to ketosis and burning ketone bodies, and you do that when your diet is more, you've got bigger percentages of proteins and fats and reduced carbohydrates. So you
So
have to get your diet sorted first.
You can have some carbs on the diet or not.
Well, when I say, I don't mean a diet, I just mean your nutritional intake for the day. But yeah, I mean, this is a massive conversation. I would love to talk about it more, but you have to work out your macro balance, your protein and your fat. And at the moment, under guidelines, government guidelines, NHS guidelines, because the research is taking its time to filter through to these institutions, but you know, the guidelines are that 60% of your diet is a healthy, wholesome grain. And if you do that and intermittently fast, you will get hangry. You will get hungry and angry.
Yes.
Hangry. If you start to shift that percentage, and if you're starting to eat more proteins, more fats, and less carbs, then intermittent fasting will become easier. And it takes time. Your body needs time to adjust. It's taken me, I've been doing it full on for 6 months, but it's taken me a good year to make the adaptations, and I did it slowly. I was really nervous that I was going to feel lightheaded and coming in to teach and things like that, whereas now my body has adapted and I do it easily.
Maybe we'll have to arrange for you to speak to us on that subject alone, possibly.
Yes.
Well,
It's changed my world. It really has. I was a classic, you know, all instructors were, all fitness instructors. I used to watch the personal trainers in all the gyms that I worked at, and they would have great big buckets, I kid you not, buckets of pasta. And that's how we used to fuel our way through 5-10 classes a day. We were all plump. We were all big people because we were just, we understood that carbohydrates gave you energy. And that was the fitness instructor's mentality for decades. And it's only in the last, I don't know, 3 years, 2 years that people are starting to understand that it doesn't give you energy in a sustained way. It gives you it gives you an undulated energy rather than a sustained energy. So fitness instructors over the years are starting to change, but it's taken a long time for that to change.
And finally, tell us about your book as well. I see it sitting in the back there.
Thank you, darling. Well, it's 99p. I'm posting them out at the moment. Zoe, my daughter, and I, who's 12, we've been packaging her up and sending them out for 99p, because getting something in the post, a little bit of gorgeousness in the post, has really helped people's mental health. You know, we're not getting anything. So we package it all up, and we've been sending it out to clients, friends and family who need a little bit of pleasantness in their day.
Yeah.
So this book, it's 3 concepts. The first concept is your mental health and getting that in place before you start challenging your diet and your exercise. So I learned through coaching clients, I thought that if I just gave everybody how to understand nutrition, then the world would be perfect and everything would sort itself out. But I quickly understood that having the nutritional pathway isn't the answer. It's trying to understand the person first and then working out what works for them. So there are no quick fixes. It is a slow process. But it's one of joy and happiness, and it's understanding yourself and it's unpicking that. So the first half of the book is all about mindset, the psychology, and then it goes into some detailed explanation of intermittent fasting, of the macro balance, all the things that we've talked about. And then it talks about movement rather than exercise, making sure that you're moving more rather than exercising more. And what I mean by that is a lot of people, especially in stressful jobs, is they're just going to the gym 3 times a week. And if you're going to the gym 3 times a week, it's recurring exercise, it's the same type of exercise, which creates that pathway that is just the same muscle groups in the same way, which is causing issues. But if you can move more, i.e. if you can get outside and walk more, if you can do things with a band, you know, it means that you're constantly adapting. You're not doing the same thing all the time.
The variety of movement and variety of food too. Yeah.
Yes, because if you're going to the gym and the gym is like a static machine, you're just working that, you're not using your core, you're just working that same muscle, and it's repetitive strain. So if you're going on a running machine, it's the repetitive strain of that same footfall. If you're outside and you're running, your ankles and your knees and your everything else has to adapt.
Right.
So yeah,
makes
more
sense.
about movement than exercise.
Great. Thank you very much, Adele. That was fantastic. Now we'll move on. I believe we have Stella. You're next up.
Hi.
Going to talk to us a little bit about how we can keep it together mentally.
Yeah, and also that connects it with the emotions as well. So I'm probably going to repeat a little bit of what Adele's already mentioned. So with all that's going on in the world, wherever you may be, what it's tending to do is put us in fear and anxiety. Fear of what's happening now, anxiety about what might happen in the future, fear about how you're going to pay your bills, all those sort of things. And some are real and some are imagined. So, you know, having concerns about how you're going to make ends meet is a real fear, and that's justified. But you know, when you're worried, the challenge I find is that there's a lot of misinformation out there. So you don't really know who's telling you the truth, who's just perpetrating propaganda. You know, the journalists, bless their hearts, are just trying to sell newspapers, you know, keep their jobs and everything else. So, you know, they have their own responsibilities. And then politicians are trying to keep their numbers and their popularity up. So, and then you've got people who are into the conspiracy theory that there is no virus, you know, and it's all an imagination thing. And of course, somebody plotted and gave it to us. It didn't just happen naturally. So, you know, that could be a whole different discussion on its own. The main challenge is that what that does is that it puts us into a fear, the stress of fight and flight mode. And so what that tends to do is our body then starts to do everything it needs to do to enable us to either fight the enemy or the foe, or to run away from it. And so, as Adele's already mentioned, cortisol is released, and it's known as the stress hormone. And its prime function is that it curbs functions within the body that aren't considered essential for that person or individual to be able to run away or fight whatever's threatening them. And so one of those things is that it lowers the immune system. So, so then that means that because your immune system is lowered, then that means that your susceptibility to any viruses or illnesses or anything else that's going on is raised. So even if you weren't going to get the virus, you know, something that you're already dealing with at a physical level is then accelerated or exacerbated. So, and the thing is that with adrenaline, that then increases your heart rate, which is, it usually produces shallow, fast breathing, because the body wants to get as much oxygen in as quickly as possible. So the heart has to work harder to be able to pump the blood around the body to provide oxygen for the muscles so that they can either fight the threat or help them run away. So short term, that's fine. That's exactly what our body's meant to do. But the challenge is, we know how long we've been in lockdown now. 2 months almost, getting on. We're not designed to be in that mode for long periods of time. It's detrimental to to everything in the body, whether it's mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, because it puts us into a hyper-vigilant state. And from my own personal experience, I was in an abusive relationship for a number of years, and I was hyper-vigilant, and it wears you out. You have no energy, you eat all the wrong things because you're comfort eating, your mindset's not good because it's all doom and gloom. You might have, you know, rays of sunshine popping in now and then, but long term it doesn't do you any good. So one of the things that we can do to help with that, and some people, I'll just backtrack slightly, some people go from a low level of fear, so they get over the initial like, oh my goodness, what's happening, and then they settle down. But that fear is always there, same as it was in my relationship. It's always there in the background, just like a little woodpecker going, I'm still here, I'm still here. And so what that tends to do is it makes you very jerky, and so you never get a chance to relax. Even when you're asleep, you're not relaxed, you're awake. So, and that can then accelerate and go into a full-blown panic attack. So deep breathing is one way to combat that, and that as soon as we breathe deeply into our lungs, to the very bottom of our lungs, then what that enables us to do is connect with the parasympathetic nervous system, which just calms everything down and reduces the heart rate, slows the breathing down, and then everything just settles down, and the body then goes, whew, thank goodness for that. So there are various ways you can do that. Again, like Adele was saying, you know, exercise or movement is great, but focus on the things that you want. So avoid being sucked into all that doom and gloom, and, you know, avoid or cut out the news altogether. Don't watch the television, stop listening to the radio. You know, social media is full of it. And it's a matter of control what you can control. So your own environment, your own little world, and focus on that, and then you won't get sucked into all the things that you don't feel you can control. And that will help you manage that fear and any anxiety, and actually might flip the switch so that you are more positive. So think about all the things that you really get enjoyment from, that you normally don't have time to do, like reading, listening to music. You know, it might be, I mean, my thing's classical, so I love Beethoven and Mozart. So if I've got them full blast while I'm cooking or vacuuming or whatever, because it's got to be loud enough so I can hear it over the vacuum cleaner, or Tchaikovsky or something like that, something rousing that really lifts the heart and, you know, does everything in the best way, releases those endorphins that just make us feel good. Could be exercise. For me, I'm not Pilates person, but yoga's for me. I also am lucky enough to have 2 horses, so I have to get up early in the morning, go and do them. So strangely enough, I do enjoy mucking out, and I enjoy poo picking the paddock. So, but the upside of that is that I get to be out in the sunshine, Even when it's it's overcast and cloudy like today, I'm still outside. I'm listening to the birds singing. Not yesterday, the day before, I actually heard a woodpecker. So, you don't normally get to hear those things because you're not around long enough because you're busy going, oh my goodness, I've got 5 minutes and I need to be somewhere else. So, so it's actually enjoying what's around you, doing painting maybe, or creating things, anything that you've not had the opportunity to do before, or maybe you just didn't have the time. I know it's more difficult when you've got children to homeschool and you've got to keep them happy as well. But again, the more you can make things exciting and fun, then the happier everybody's going to be. So there are a couple of other things that you can do as well. I study in Hawaii something called Huna, which is the ancient spiritual practices of the Hawaiians. And one of the things that we learn, and you may have come across it before, is something called ho'oponopono. Ho'o means to make, ho'oponopono. So ho'o means to make, pono means right. So it's to make right twice. And it's a way of getting rid of negative emotions that you perceive someone or an organization have done to you. So coupled with the fear is also anger. People are very angry about what's happening. They're losing their businesses. They're turned their worlds upside down. They can't go on holiday, so they've lost money. All these sort of things, back to conspiracy theory again. Well, it's them doing it to us. Well, we need to let go of those things. And the challenge with both fear and anger is they're high energy. So we need to reduce the energy and make it calm. So ho'oponopono is one of those ways of doing that. And it's also known as the forgiveness process. But it's a means by which you forgive the other person, their misdemeanor or their perceived misdemeanor, so that you're flat with it emotionally. So it's not a case of, yes, I forgive you, but last week you did whatever it was. It's, it's a case of, I forgive you, we're done. That's it, And so somebody can say something and you're like, well, I don't even know what you're talking about, can't remember. So that's how flat you need to be with it. So another Hawaiian technique that we do, which is brilliant, and it's called hakalau. And I know Patricia's really keen on this. So haka means focus. Hence the guys doing the haka, from New Zealand, the All Blacks, because they're very focused. It's a way of focusing the team, but it also frightens the bejeebers out of the opposition. So lau means to expand. So hakalau means to expand your focus. So the way to do it is to, you can sit or stand, it doesn't matter which. I sometimes do this with my horse riding pupils, and so while they're sitting on the horse. So you want to look at a spot in front of you, about 10 feet away, up and slightly above your eye level. And then you use foveal vision, which is that where you're really focused, almost like you've got blinkers on and like telescopic vision. So you're really focused on that spot. And then gradually what you do is you relax your vision, still looking at the spot, but then you relax it so that your vision expands. It's what we call peripheral vision. So then you become aware of things either side of that spot, excuse me. So you might be able to see, I don't know, if I was in my office, so I've got my computer in front of me. So I can now see the printer to my right. I can see the window and the plants on my windowsill to my left. And you can, with practice, extend your vision all the way around to 180 degrees. And if you practice it even more, you can wrap it all the way around to 360. You can't physically see 360 degrees, but you get a sense of what's behind you. And the reason why the Hawaiians did this is because it connects you to your environment. And so, you know, when you're out doing your 10,000 steps, Adele? So when you're out doing your 10,000 steps, then you go into Hakalau, and then you become aware of the birds singing, of the flowers on the bushes or the trees, and you're just very aware of the ground underneath you, the grass, or maybe what you might call weeds. Horses love weeds, particularly dandelions and the like. So you just become much more aware of your environment, and that's how we used to live. That's how we, you know, it was important for us to be connected to our environment, because that's what kept us safe. That was what kept us alive, so that no little passing bear or tiger could sneak up behind us and go, oh, by the way, your breakfast. Because we had that connection to our environment and our sense of all things around us, we knew when there was something behind us, even if we couldn't see it. So that's a really good way of connecting with your environment. But what happens is, as you start to expand your vision, you will notice that, especially if you're in a bit of a tense state, then you will notice that as your vision expands, your breathing slows. Then you'll find that, for me, it feels like everything's settling into my tummy. The Hawaiians call it the na'au, which is basically your energy center. And so it just feels like everything's coming down there and settling. So your breathing slows, you reconnect with your parasympathetic nervous system, and then you can keep that as well. So once you're in Hakalau, if you want to play with it, then walk around, go for a walk, or walk around the house, and just notice how different it feels to when you're in that foveal linear state. And just notice the emotional differences and the things that you notice and the things that you've been missing all this time. So that's basically my thoughts for the day.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Stella. That was quite interesting. And I think we learned a little bit more as well this sort of time around. So that's good. So you said you were in Hawaii. When was that? How long ago was that?
Literally, well, the lockdown started. So yeah, we were out there. We went beginning of March, and then things were rumbling in the background about lockdown. And then towards the end of we were out there for 2 weeks. So the end of the first week, people were talking about going home early because they didn't want to miss their flights, and because there's people there at the workshop that I go to from all over the world. And I remember saying to my husband, "I'm not going early. I'm staying. We've paid, you know, we paid for this. We come every year. This is it. It'll be fine." And I said, so we need to put an intention out there that that's exactly what's going to happen, that we will get back when we're meant to, and it'll all be fine. And we were sitting in class, and I went, "Oh, it's done." And he said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "The energy has changed. We'll be fine." And we were absolutely fine. Flight from the island to LA was changed. So it was, instead of flying out, I don't know, 9:30, we flew out at 11 o'clock. And then the flight from LA to Heathrow was cancelled, but again, we were put on another flight later on in the day. So we had a 14-hour layover, but that wasn't an issue. But essentially we got back on the Thursday, the same as we fully intended. And I've never gone through security so quickly. It was just wonderful. It was just like straight through. So, you know, and the only time that we were in close quarters, as it were, was when we were actually on the flights. But the rest of the time we, you know, observed social distancing, so did everybody else. And so it's been fine. And then when we came back, we then went into self-isolation, if you like. But of course, with the horses, I have to go out and look after them. So, but yeah, so what we focus on is our own environment, our own little universe. We control what we can around that. We don't have a television, we don't have newspapers. When the news comes on the radio, I turn it off. I wait until I think it's finished, and then I put my classic FM back on. And so, but I always get to know what I need to know. So on social media, again, you know, anybody who does a lot of all of this, then I'm afraid they either get snoozed or they get unfriended, because I don't need that. I know what's happening in the world, and I'm doing my best and I'm doing my bit. So I don't need somebody else's negativity.
Well, so many people dwell. They just dwell on it.
Yeah.
Hear it over and over and over again. It gets so ingrained.
Yeah.
Yes, it seems like some people are just, they're absorbing 24 hours of news constantly and just bathing themselves with it. And
well, that feeds their anger. And that's what soaps do. I'm going to get on my soapbox now, but you know, those type of programs feed your anger. And so it makes them feel better about what's not working in their life by pointing outside of themselves and going, well, that's not me, you know, and I'll blame that person. But remember, every time you point forward, you've got 3 fingers facing back at you. You know, what's happening outside you is merely your reflection of what's happening inside you. So you need
Very well said. Yeah.
Yes, I like the part that you said too, that forgiveness is key. Because well, I'm one of the ones that tend to hang on to things. You know, you did that 2 months ago to me, so now I'm still upset, and it's no good for yourself, is it? You know, you have to sort of let go of all of that and control only what you can control. And think.
That's a really good point, Linda, because I've been on a lot of workshops with people who can't let go. I mean, I'm the same. I find it really hard to let go of things, but I'd love you to repeat it, actually, Stella, because you phrased it in a way that made it go deeper, i.e. the forgiveness aspect. I know that it's hurting myself if I don't forgive, but it's hard to let that go. And you worded it in such a way that made it a little bit clearer for me.
Okay.
Well, we have this recording, so, but you carry on.
Okay. So, as I say, it's ho'oponopono, so it's to make, and pono means right. So it's right with yourself. So it's not right or wrong. It's right with yourself. And quite often, going back to the forgiveness side, yes, quite often we're angry with people outside of us, but more often than not, we are angry with ourselves. So like Adele's thing about her chocolate, you know, how many times have you gone, right, that's it, I'm not eating any more chocolate, and then you do, and then you beat yourself up for it. So it's also a process that you can use for yourself to get flat with it. And that's the key, is to I mean, there's a specific process of being able to do it. So, but it's about you know, saying, okay, this is how I feel, and it's done in your head. So you get the opportunity, have the person in front of you and say, okay, well, I feel that you're the biggest bleep on the world, and you know, on the earth, and you did this to me and you did that to me, and I feel really ticked off about it. But you then allow them to have their say, and you listen to what they have to say, and you keep doing that until you're done, until you haven't got anything else to say. Now, when the Hawaiians did this, they would take days, sometimes weeks, and they would not only, it wouldn't be, say you and I, Linda, had a bit of a spat. So it wouldn't just be you and me, it'd be you, me, and Patricia, because Patricia's your friend. So I might have brought Adele as my friend, but then Adele will have told her husband, so she'll have to bring him. And then, you know, and so it's, you know, it's no longer just you and I, it's everybody that's been told and everybody who's involved. And you sit and you talk it out until it's all done. And it's not done until you're emotionally flat with it. And once you're emotionally flat with it, it loses any energy, it loses any importance, and it's like, okay, we're done. Now, it can be done with someone who is, say, like your husband or your child, and it's what we do is we cut what we call the Aka cords, and they are energetic cords. They can be a bit sticky. So, so you cut those. But the nice thing is that if it's someone who's close to you, then you just reconnect with them the next time. If it's somebody who's not important in your life, then you cut the Aka cords. The great thing is you never get to see them again.
Yes.
So
yes.
I did it with someone who, I keep my horses in a certain place, and there's a person who owns the premises, and she and I had a bit of a thing, and I did Ho'oponopono. Weird thing was, as soon as I cut the Aka cord, she rang me because she felt the energetical cut. And because I was flat with it, I was able to have a conversation with her and express my views without getting angry or emotional or anything else. So she couldn't argue with me because there was nothing to argue with. But then you would think I'd bump into her all the time. I didn't see her for almost a month. She was like out of my universe because we were done. And that's the cool thing about it. So it's a very good way of keeping your energy clear. And you can do it with people that you meet day to day, you know, people at the cashiers in the supermarket or whatever. It's not that you don't want, it's just you cleaning your energy. So it's a bit like just, you know, throwing the vacuum cleaner or the dust around, but it's done emotionally. And then that means you've got your energy available to you to do what you want to do with it.
I really like that point, cleaning your energy. You know, because then you're not hurting yourself.
No.
And you let go of all that, whatever it is that is affecting you and making you sick, really.
You could get rid of those triggers that keep popping up. Make you immune to the triggers, or
absolutely
put them behind you or something.
And be honest with yourself to go, okay, because, and here's the rub, the more you go, that's not me, the more it is. You can look at someone's behavior and go, huh, that's interesting, and you're emotionally fat with it, you're safe, it's not you. But the more you go, I'm nothing like that so-and-so over there, yep, that's you, you're gonna have to do some work.
That's sort of a good barometer that you can use.
Yeah.
I like
Sounds
that.
Like I need to hang out with you girls more often, see if I can sort myself.
Great idea.
There's hope for all of us, isn't there?
Fantastic. Thank you ever so much, Stella. That was really good. And Adele's got to go, but bye. That's fine. She can catch up with the recording in a minute once we get that done. So we'll move right on then to Patricia. You wanted to share your screen. I think I've already set you as a...
Yes, let me see if I can do that.
I'll try to set you up so that you can do your talk for us.
That should be all right then.
And we're going to talk about the business side of, or the financial thing of keeping us together, keeping it together.
Yes, where's my cursor gone? Oh, I can't see it. Well, oh, no, we don't want to do that. Come on. Right then. So hello, everyone, to our listening audience. I hope you're getting some value. I'm sure you are getting some value from our experiences and top tips today. So I am going to talk about evaluating a business opportunity, or what is your backup plan. Maybe you are at home with small children right now, forced to be, but enjoying it nonetheless. But maybe you are on sort of a job, sort of treadmill, not knowing, a job of your intention. Maybe you didn't know where it was going. You don't know if you're going to have a job to go back to. So this is a time to really take some deep consideration of where you would like to be going forward once lockdown is over. I think we all have an opportunity to start writing our new normal. We're talking about what is the new normal going to be like? Well, start, as Stella was saying, state your intentions. Start mapping out your new normal when lockdown is over. So while you're at home with small children right now, some things you could share would be online with their friends. Maybe have some craft time. Maybe you're making things with your kids. I'm thinking of back when my kids were little, all the fun things we did. Some songs, some dancing. You can get really silly with kids, and the sillier the better, the more they like it. I'm thinking of when I taught my children to read and to count and to tell time. So you could do that with online with a group of their friends. Maybe you're a gardener and you could share your gardening tips. I was on a Zoom last week with someone who was planting out seeds, and she was using egg crates, loo rolls, and even those Tetra Packs, which I've got loads of, because you can't, where I am, we can't recycle them, but then I feel guilty throwing them away. But she used those Tetra Packs as planters, and they looked really nice. So that was something I learned. But I'm sure you have gardening tips that you could share that I could learn from. Maybe you're a collector. A friend of mine's partner is sort of it's like a gems, not really gemstone, but I can't remember what kind of stones they are that he's been collecting. Well, he got his collection out, shared it online with people, a little bit of, education. And, that's something to do to while away the time and maybe spark a hobby interest or something. A lot of people I know are doing DIY at home now because we have the time. You could share those tips for maybe a quick fix in an emergency or a long-term project that you're getting to grips with. I have been enjoying back garden foraging. I moved house in November, so now that spring is upon us, I'm scouting around just in my own little confines. Found I think 5 edible herbs the other day. One very popular herb is dandelion. Now, dandelions are incredibly nutritious. The leaves are wonderful for helping to regulate cholesterol. You can chop them up and put them in a salad. You can add them to soup. There are different varieties, I think something like 200 different varieties of dandelions. The younger leaves are less bitter, and the leaves that have sort of a zigzaggy, it sort of goes in and out, sort of jagged leaf, those are a bit peppery. I had one the other day, it was like horseradish. It was lovely, but a bit surprising if you're not ready for that. And then we've got the dandelion. Well, these are some nutritional value of dandelions, but the petals are beautiful. I've added them. You can sprinkle them on your salad. I made dandelion syrup. So I add a little dandelion flower syrup to apple cider vinegar and make a lovely salad dressing. I'm not talking much about businesses right now because I get off on this tangent. So exciting. But here's a flyer that I put together, and I've been posting that on Facebook pages for groups just to give people a little knowledge about weeds. Weeds are nothing more than an unwanted plant or flower, because you might be tempted to spray your garden with glyphosate right now and get rid of the dandelions. That's a whole nother talk. Hopefully Linda will have me back to talk about that. But it's highly toxic to us in our environment. But the dandelions have so much nutritional value. So let me get back onto our the reason for my talk here. Let me get my notes up properly, just so I don't get off topic. As you can tell, I'm really good at that. So maybe you are thinking about life after lockdown and making some work decisions. Maybe you have a job to go back to, you just don't know when. Maybe you don't have a job to go back to. Or maybe this is an opportunity for change, to do something you've always wanted to do, something in the back of your mind. So here is a way of evaluating 4 types of jobs. Now, the first in the top left quadrant is the typical job. This was for my parents' generation. My stepfather had, gosh, what he worked, 30 or 40 years, full-time job, and then he retired. But that has not been my story, and it's certainly not going to be my children's story. And then we have below that, we have self-employed. Now that is my son. He does remodeling and hardwood floors and things, but he works every single day. I think if he's awake, he's working, and his brains are probably ticking over when he's asleep. So it's more like your job owns you situation. So 95% of the population fall into that category, and they earn 5% of the wealth. On the other side, the top right, we have the business owner. A business owner who owns a system. That means he or she has employees that work for him. So they're doing the work, and he's getting a percentage of that income himself. So he's leveraging their efforts to pay him. Now that the different types of systems. And then we have the bottom quadrant, which is the investor. So I think we'd all like to be there having our money work for us, but how do you get that lump sum? So that's 5% of the population earning 95% of the wealth. So let's elaborate on the business owner owning a system. So this is a business opportunity test. You might think the product or the service is the most important aspect, and it certainly does have an important role to play, because if you can't utilize the product or the service yourself, then how can you recommend it to others? So let's look at evaluating each of these product or service, the payout, timing, training, public versus a privately held company, and market saturation and size. So the product is important, as I said, because you've got to believe in it before you can promote it. But let's say the product is not exclusive. Let's say that the product is, well, you wouldn't go door to door selling typewriters right now, would you? Nobody'd be interested in something like that. Let's talk about payout as well. How much are you going to get paid to promote that product? It's got to be worth your time. And then do you want to have linear income, or do you want to have a residual income? The residual income is getting paid for the efforts of other people. And then timing. I mentioned the typewriter analogy. The timing, is it a relevant product? Is it an innovative product? Is it something that can easily be copied? And then training. Do you have to figure it out on your own? Is someone going to train you? Who's going to answer your questions? Who's going to walk side by side with you, arm in arm, and teach you the mistakes that have already been made so you don't have to make them yourself? And then public versus private. A privately held company, they can fall into difficulties. A friend of mine was with, it was a CBD oil company. They were in another country, and they had not filed the proper licensing paperwork. And she'd built up quite a substantial business, earning £4,000 a month, when they were regulated or evaluated, monitored something, found out they hadn't filed that paperwork, and they were shut down overnight, no warning, no do-over. Her income went away. So a publicly traded company, the books are open, they're on display. You know who the board of directors are, and the board of directors are there to represent everyone, make decisions on for the good of everybody. The earnings, the quarterly earnings statements are public knowledge, as well as the earnings of the people involved. And then market size. Market size, are you restricted to a small geographical area? Or are you, the world's your oyster? Do you have other countries? You're not restricted. So analogy for this would be, say you have an opportunity to sell a magic pill. Well, that would sound great, wouldn't it? You jump into that without much thought or consideration. But then you learn that you start seeing signs in all the windows of businesses that people are selling the magic pill. Even though this magic pill can grow limbs, so someone's arm falls off, they take this magic pill and their arm magically grows back. If everybody else is selling it, who's going to buy from you? So you need to have something that is exclusive, and not everybody has access to that. And then you have to consider, is it consumable? Is it a monthly consumable product? That's where residual income comes from. If it's just a one-off purchase, then you've got to find a lot of people to buy it. And if you're going to be paid £1,000 per pill, well, maybe sell a couple pills a month. That's probably doable. But if it's only a penny per pill, that's an awful lot of customers that you need who aren't going to be buying that on a regular basis. So those are things to consider. And then you want to consider the timing. So this is the top graph is a business S-curve. This was developed by a man, surname was Drucker. So this applies to most businesses. You've got the early days on the left side, where sort of the first 5 years, there's something called whitewater. Businesses go through whitewater, a lot of learning, a lot of loss. A lot of businesses fail in those first 5 years. And that's why it sort of stays sort of steady along. And then it starts to, if they're still in business, still trading, then it starts to go up. And those first 10 years are very formative. And once it reaches that 10-year mark, then its success is assured, because they've got people, maybe distributors or business partners that are working for like expending the same effort as everyone else and getting the word out. You're getting customers, and it's proving itself. Then you get to a point where you reach momentum. That's usually when you have about 200,000 distributors. So before the 200,000 distributors, once it's gone through that 5 years, that's a pretty safe time to join. And then you reach stabilization. Joining after stabilization, there's not a lot of money to be made. So if you're wanting to make a substantial income, you want to get in early. So the chart below is sort of identifying the innovators and the early adopters. So the innovators might have disposable income, and they can sort of gamble a little bit that that company is going to make it. And then the early adopters come in, maybe they want to wait until after that 5 years. So it's a little more secure. Then the early majority, well, they want to see some proof first. So they jump in still before the momentum stage. And then you've got the late majority and the laggards. Well, they may have missed that big opportunity, but they can still get involved and with a lot of effort, maybe make a substantial income, but it's much, much harder. So the early days are the best time to get involved. Now, if you want to know more about the business that I'm doing, my email address is here. Contact me. I am not jumping on at 1 o'clock because this is a 2 over Zoom that we are doing, but I'm happy to share the information with you. And then if you've got Linda's and Stella's as well, we'd be happy to share with you what we're doing. And we hope that some of this information has been helpful for you. So that's it.
Thank you, Patricia. Appreciate that. If you could stop your screen share now. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. So, any questions? So, any ideas on what would be the best sort of business that we could get involved in right now? I guess mostly online stuff.
Well, yes, so many things are going to online. You've got social media for marketing, but But right now, the big thing is health and wellness. I mean, it's just massive. You see health revolution activists, which I have been for quite some time, be giving a talk on 4 areas of toxins that are affecting us all. So we have been building up to this situation that we're in now, and looking after our health is the best thing for us. And I think the best benefit for the NHS going forward. They're dealing with the situation beautifully. But once this is over, you know, they're talking about, the media are predicting another lockdown in the autumn or the winter. Well,
Really?
with that, I've heard it several times. I don't know who's saying that. I don't know where that's coming from. I don't know how they calculate the numbers. I'm not on board with it. You know, a lot of what Stella said resonates. I'm not going to be affected by that. Have been preparing for a long time, because I sort of saw with the toxic environment that we were headed for something like this. Who knew it would be a virus pandemic? But we see cancer on the rise. We see autism was like, used to be 1 in 100,000 children were autistic, and now it's 1 in 32. So the warning signs are all around, and those aren't meant to frighten us. They are warning signs. Those are firm statistics, not scaremongering. They are warning signs. What are we doing wrong? Well, we have our food to look at. We have pesticides to look at. And, but getting back to boosting our immune system, looking after our own health is going to cause a ripple effect. And we're going to end up with a healthy society that is not a drain on the NHS.
I think it's interesting that people are now not going to the hospitals and the doctors because of the situation. But how many of those people were going because they just wanted a repeat prescription, even though they didn't really need one? You know, I think it's upon us as individuals that we take responsibility for our health. And I think this whole situation has been the biggest wake-up call you've ever experienced. And there will be those like us here who will take that opportunity, reevaluate, smell the roses, as it were, and then go, okay, what do I need to change? And even those who are already taking responsibility for our health will still look and say, what else can I do? How else can I change this? How can I make it better? And there will be those who will, that's too hard for them, it's too difficult. And so they'll stick their heads in the sand, and they'll wait for somebody else to fix it for them. So it's not going to be quite the big thing that it was meant to create, I think. I think there will be those that will still muddle along the same as they've always done, blaming anybody that's breathing out around them, that it's their fault, instead of looking to themselves and going, well, actually, do I contribute to that? Do I recycle? Do I take journeys that in the car that I don't actually need to do? You know, can I think about cooking more food for myself? And, you know, it's a matter of being more self-sufficient, and just rather than it being a throwaway society and something that's the easiest, that's not always the best for us. So
you're exactly right. You raised
lots of different levels.
You raised something, an interesting point of going to the doctor to get a repeat prescription, but statistics, I can't recall the statistics exactly, but a huge number of people go to the doctor because that's the only person who listened to them. They go just for that 10 minutes of companionship. And so now we can't do that either, but we've got more and more online opportunities to connect with people. And I think we're being more inventive in ways of looking after isolated people, so that hopefully we can remove that need.
I agree that even though some things are restricted, we're we're innovating ourselves. This has been a reset button, really.
Reset button. Well done.
I've heard that term, and I think that's so true, that so many people now are using it to reevaluate their situation and do things differently and even better. And it's helped the environment. It's helped a whole lot of other situations, you know, where people are saying, you know, we didn't need that, or we needed this, you know, and that this is how we can carry on a new normal, really. Some are now deciding to switch into something new and innovative. So it's been helpful in some ways, I think.
It's been very helpful in some very tangible ways. We've seen air pollution in China and America dramatically drop so much. I'm from California, and the skies were literally brown, orange and brown, and now they're not. How quickly that recovered.
India as well, they're able to see the Himalayas, I believe they were saying, for the first time in ages.
Oh wow. So it's all over. We just can't go back. We can't do that anymore. We know.
I think of it in terms of Mother Nature. I mean, we have Mother Nature, but I just see her, you know, and all us naughty children, and her just coming down with this pandemic, which is like a slap going, oi, stop doing that. Behave yourselves.
Go to your rooms.
Yes, exactly.
Go to your rooms. Oh, wow.
It's like parents saying, slap you, go to your room.
Yeah.
So we're all back to our rooms now because we've been naughty.
Yes.
Well, and seeing families coming together, seeing mums and dads and kids out walking. You know, mums and dads at home at the same time as their children, all day, every day, really getting to know each other, the good and the bad and the ugly. And oh, you know, I've been saying for, I think, all my life, with all the progress, we see progress, but I think, you know, what was wrong with the way we did it before? But once you take that next step, I guess, as a society, you can't say, oh no, let's all get rid of microwaves, you know, because you got people that like microwaves. Dumb analogy, but now we have reset the clock. We reset the clock. I know people that are growing veg that have never grown veg before. People that are doing
stuff like that.
You can't buy flour because everybody's baking now.
I think the thing is that what's got slightly out of hand is that technology, innovations, progress, you know, scientific progress is great, but it was in danger of taking us over. And you can't, we are people and we need that contact. And the technology and the science and all of that should enhance our relationships and make life easier for us in some respects, but not to the extent that it takes over. You know, it should complement who we are as a race, as a, you know, humankind, rather than obliterating us. I don't want a robot. Yes, there are times when I moan a lot about, oh, I've got to get the vacuum cleaner out again. But I don't want a robot in my house doing my housework, thank you. It won't do it right anyway.
I do.
but it's, you know, I don't want to give away my individuality, if you like. I want to, you know, have something in my world, have a robot that helps me, but doesn't take over. And I think that's the difference, is that we've allowed science, you know, we're replacing people with robots to do the jobs. Well, and then what?
Well, we're so marketed to our sense of convenience too, that we buy the next fancy gadget that helps us peel potatoes faster or something.
But look at children. They don't know how to communicate because from an early age, not everyone I know, but they're given a mobile phone or they're given an iPad. So they don't know how to have interaction. perish the thought that they should fall out of a tree and graze their knee, or
Yeah.
actually have a bit of fisticuffs with someone in, you know, like we used to do. We used to do all sorts of things, make dens out of bushes and.
Well, maybe now that health and safety is busy with the coronavirus, we could go climb trees. They're too busy to watch.
But
The sun was falling out of them.
having said that, technology has really helped in this situation to keep people closer together and has reduced us from having to travel, which is great, and
I
spend,
love it.
you know, pay for parking and all the rest of it, and petrol and so on, just to get to a networking meeting or something of that. So
No.
some good, I guess. it's
It's about that balance.
balance.
It's all about balance, and I think that's what's happened is we've got out of kilter, and then the wheels come off. So
All
now-
that rushing around. Yes.
Yeah.
I have to get my car MOT this afternoon. I was like, oh, you know, I have to go out, drive, be there on time.
Right. So anyway, Patricia, thank you very much. I want to thank Adele. I want to thank Patricia as well as Stella for joining us today on Keeping It Together. And hopefully you can join us on the 30th of April when we'll have Grant Philip Zero. He will be talking about top tips, tech tips, as well as giving us some idea about what the dark web is all about. So hopefully you can join us then. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you, Linda. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh,